census is a way of keeping track of a population, but you can only hear in Skerries the local community has teamed up with the Dublin Institute of Technology student to produce a graphical map of how the seaside village has evolved over the last century.
The project is about the change of population in Skerries over the past 100 years and how it's expanded to the north and south using census information and the building registry provided by the Historical Society.
In the latter couple of years, so people really want faster access to the data, they want easier access to the data.
Maria Byrne of Ordnance Survey Ireland has come to DIT to give a lecture on what their Map Genie software can do. In 1911, Skerries was a market gardening and fishing village. Sarah has only ever seen the town on a map, but it's no substitute for seeing it in real life.
Hello Sarah, welcome to Skerries.
Two members of the Skerries Historical Society are going to give her a tour of the town so she can build up a clearer picture for her maps.
And back here towards the sea was where the town grew up.
In 1911, the great debate in Skerries was whether they wanted public streetlights.
It's strange to think that 100 years ago there was no public lighting in Skerries, but in 1911 there was a big controversy regarding the fors and against of public lighting, and it was held in the Carnegie Library, and they actually decided, a lot of people were for, a lot were against, and eventually decided that yes, they would use Pickner lamps. People were against public lighting because they said it would cost too much, it would go on the rates. The people who were for it wanted the visitors who came in their droves to Skerries in the early 20th century. Yeah, and they wanted them to come and stay in August and September and have the light.
Did you find out anything interesting when you were going through the census of 1911?
Yes, we found that this house here belonged to Mr. John Ronaldson, who was the Skerry sub-postmaster. And his two daughters, Jessie and Annie, when they were filling in their census form, they wrote down, instead of their religion, they wrote down suffragette.
Hurrah, hurrah, for equal rights, hurrah, hurrah, for the suffrage flag that bears the woman's star.
In April 1911, there was a census in Britain and Ireland, but the suffragette movement seeking the right for women to vote began a political campaign. They felt if women weren't counted as voters, then they wouldn't be counted in a census either. On census night, some suffragettes hid or went on all-night journeys to avoid being counted. In Skerries, Jessie and Annie Ronaldson were making their own, ultimately futile protest.
And of course, Mr. Nellens, the enumerator, crossed out their names, the suffragettes, and put in Church of Ireland.
Skerries has changed a lot over the years. Leonard McLaughlin is 85, and he's lived here all his life.
I suppose the first thing about Skerries, when I was born and now, is that it was so much smaller then. It was a market garden area, but there were also a number of, I suppose the best thing you could call them would be urban farmyards. In the winter, about 3 o'clock, the various groups, if that's the right word, of cows would be coming into the town, sometimes accompanied by a man or a boy, sometimes by a dog, or sometimes by nobody. The leader would be the matriarch of the troop, and of course they'd wander in down the middle of the road. There was very little traffic, virtually no motor traffic, and each leader cow would know exactly where they were going, and they'd peel off at the right place and go into the farmyards as they were in the town. And that continued right up to about 1940, the early 40s.
The finishing touches were finally put to Skerries Carnegie Library last week. 100 years after it was built, the building finally got its clock. Ironically, in 1911, there wasn't enough money about to pay for the clock.
On behalf of Ordnance Survey Ireland, I'd like to present this frame print to you that hopefully will be displayed in the Carnegie Library.
The Ordnance Survey of Ireland were delighted to present the community with these maps showing the town in 1911 and 2011.
Thanks very much, Tony. On behalf of the people of Skerries, we're delighted to accept this from the OSI, and we'll have it displayed in the Carnegie Library.
After all the seaside fresh air, Sarah has returned to college to put the finishing touches to her map.
This is just the main street of Skerries and Chapel Street, which used to be the main street. I've taken the 1911 census information and put it in, and you can see the occupied houses and the houses that weren't occupied. In 1911, the village was fairly small. It was a small fishing village, and then as we move on, it expanded in the 1970s, 75, and then it continued expanding north and south, but didn't pass the train line.
The community in Skerries have become interested in what the village life was like in Edwardian times, so much so that members of the Historical Society have even gone to the trouble of making period costumes. A photographic exhibition highlighting the census years 1911 and 2011 will take place in Skerries Mills soon.
Back here